Oh, you think I'm exaggerating? That's adorable. Really it is. Give me a moment while I laugh at your naivety. The first rule of galactic warfare is simple. Avoid the humans. At all costs. Period. My name is Vorax Torellian, Tactical Commander of the 7th Orion Fleet, veteran of 63 campaigns, and survivor of exactly one human encounter. Trust me, when I say this, that single encounter was enough for several lifetimes. I sighed, running a hand over my cranial ridges. Put it through, Lieutenant, and prepare the medicinal spirits. I suspect we will need them shortly. Commander, incoming transmission from Central Command, announced Lieutenant Pax, his 4 arms working frantically across the control panel. His orange skin had paled to a sickly yellow, which told me everything I needed to know about the message content. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing Admiral Zentara with her perpetual scowl. The cybernetic implant covering her left eye glowed an ominous red, never a good sign. Commander Torellian, she barked, not bothering with pleasantries. Your fleet is being redirected to the Proxima system. Effective immediately. My heart's nearly stopped. The Proxima system. Admiral, that's in human territory. Her single biological eye narrowed. Correction, Commander. That was in human territory. As of 27 galactic hours ago, it appears to be in no one's territory. What happened? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Lieutenant Pax dropped a data pad with a clatter. Nobody moved to pick it up. Proxima Centauri 3rd has gone silent. All 5 billion inhabitants. No communications, no transmissions, nothing. One moment there was a thriving Centaurian colony. The next, silent. And you want us to investigate? I couldn't keep the disbelief from my voice. Admiral, with all due respect, if this is the humans' doing, sending more ships into the area is like pouring fuel on a supernova. The transmission cut abruptly, leaving the command bridge in stunned silence. Admiral Zentara leaned forward, her face filling the holographic projection. Your objection is noted, Commander, and overruled. The Galactic Council needs information, not excuses. Your fleet leaves in 6 hours. Zentara out. Well, I said finally, it seems we are all going to die. Lieutenant, did you prepare those spirits as I requested? Why, yes, Commander, Pax stammered. Excellent. Have them sent to my quarters. I will need to draft my final will and testament while I can still hold a stylus. Let me explain something about humans that most species don't understand. It's not their technology that makes them dangerous. In fact, by galactic standards, their tech is almost laughably primitive. Their fastest ships are snails compared to ours. Their weapons are practically antique. Even their most advanced AI systems would make a Betelgeusian child's toy seem sophisticated. No, what makes humans terrifying is their absolutely baffling capacity for both destruction and survival. Approaching Proxima System, Commander, announced Navigator Kell, her tentacles gliding over the navigation controls with practiced precision, entering at reduced speed as ordered. I nodded, trying to ignore the knot of dread in my stomach. All sensors at maximum. I want to know if a micrometeorite so much as shifts position within 1,000,000 kilometers of our position. On screen. Sir, called Security Chief Vazik from his station, I'm detecting debris. Lots of it. I gripped the arms of my command chair. Nothing except humans, apparently. The main view screen shifted to show what remained of the Centaurian defense fleet. Twisted metal, shattered hulls, fragments of once mighty warships scattered across space like children's toys stomped by an angry parent. By the 5 moons, whispered Communications Officer Trella. There must have been over 50 ships in that fleet. Some of those were Saelaxian dreadnoughts. Nothing can destroy a Saelaxian dreadnought. That's impossible, I said. Even humans leave traces, unless… Commander, Vazik continued, his voice tightening, I'm not detecting any energy signatures from the attacking force. No radiation trails, no warp signatures, nothing. Lieutenant Pax finished my thought. Unless they are still here, passive scans only, I ordered, keeping my voice steady. No active sensors, no transmissions. We move like ghosts. Lieutenant Pax, give me a visual of Proxima Centauri 3rd. The screen shifted again, now showing the once blue jewel of a world, except it wasn't blue anymore. Large portions of the planet's surface were scorched black, and massive cloud formations swirled across entire continents. The command bridge went silent, the only sound the soft beeping of instruments and the suddenly very loud breathing of my crew. Magnify Sector 8. I instructed, pointing to what had once been the capital city. What kind of weapon could do that? Trella whispered. As the image zoomed in, collective gasps echoed around the bridge. Where the gleaming spires of Nova Centauri should have stood, there was only a perfectly circular crater, stretching nearly 100 kilometers in diameter. Not a weapon, I replied grimly. A message. Spit it out, Wren. Chief Science Officer Wren approached my chair, her analysis pad clutched in trembling hands. Commander, preliminary atmospheric readings indicate radiation consistent with Sol-type fusion bombs, primitive nuclear weapons. Hundreds of them. I actually laughed, though there was no humor in it. Of course, the humans didn't use their advanced weapons. They used their obsolete ones. Just to prove they could. But why? Asked Navigator Kell. The Centaurians never threatened Earth. They were peaceful colonists. I stood up, walking closer to the view screen. That, Navigator, is what we are here to find out. Although I suspect the answer won't make any rational sense to us. Human logic rarely does. We spent the next 12 hours conducting passive scans of the system, keeping our presence as minimal as possible. Like prey animals hiding from an apex predator, we drifted among the debris, gathering what information we could without drawing attention. Commander, we have detected a transmission, Trella announced suddenly, breaking the tense silence that had fallen over the bridge. It's coming from the far side of the planet's moon. A distress signal? I asked. No, sir, it's a broadcast, being transmitted on all frequencies, both standard Galactic Council protocols and older formats. Much older. My heart skipped a beat. Is it humans? Trella's fingers flew over her console. I don't think so. The transmission pattern is Centaurian, but, she paused, her brow furrowing in confusion. Sir, it's being broadcast in 17 different languages, including 3 that haven't been actively used in over a millennium. Put it through. Audio only. The voice that filled the command bridge was unmistakably Centaurian, but strained as if the speaker was injured or exhausted. Repeat. This is High Chancellor Voss of the Centaurian colony. To any vessels receiving this message, do not approach Proxima Centauri III. The humans, they came without warning. Our defense fleet, destroyed in minutes. They used primitive weapons, devices we thought had been abandoned centuries ago. Nuclear, kinetic, chemical, but effective. So effective. The transmission crackled with static, and for a moment I thought we'd lost it. Then the Chancellor's voice returned, now lower, almost a whisper. They said we violated their border. We didn't know. The maps we had, they were wrong. The border had changed. They tried to contact us, but our automated defense systems, they interpreted the human communications as attacks, shot down their messenger ships. And then they came. Not in warships, but in cargo vessels. Mining ships. Civilian transports retrofitted with weapon systems that shouldn't have worked, but did. Oh, how they worked. Another pause. Longer this time. The Chancellor coughed, a wet sound that suggested internal injuries. This wasn't even their military, just colonists. Miners, farmers, engineers who repurposed their equipment into weapons. They called it the Minute Man tradition. Said it was how they fought their first war of independence, centuries ago. Civilians becoming soldiers in minutes. We surrendered after the first day, offered reparations. Apologies. They accepted our surrender, and then they bombed us anyway. Said it was, what was the phrase? Pour encourager les autres. To encourage the others, a lesson for anyone who might threaten human borders in the future. They are gone now, returned to their territory. But they left observers, satellites, drones, watching, always watching. The transmission ended with a final chilling message. The humans have a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. We learned too late what this means. The galaxy has forgotten what humanity is capable of. We thought because they isolated themselves, because they seemed to retreat from galactic politics, they had grown weak. We were wrong. They weren't in decline. They were sleeping, and we woke them up. I took a deep breath. plot a course to the moon, find that transmission source. If the Chancellor is still alive, we need his testimony for the Galactic Council." Silence fell over the command bridge, heavy and oppressive. "Orders, sir," Lieutenant Pax asked quietly. "Commander," Security Chief Vazik interjected. "With respect, if the humans have left observation drones, any approach to the moon might be detected." "I'm aware of the risk, Chief," I replied, "but we need answers, and the Chancellor may have them. Besides, if the humans decide they want to destroy us, hiding won't make any difference. They have already demonstrated that quite effectively." The surface of Proxima Centauri III's moon was a desolate landscape of gray dust and impact craters, not unlike thousands of other moons throughout the galaxy. Except this one now held something unique, the last surviving high-ranking official of an extinct colony. Our landing craft touched down approximately 2 kilometers from the source of the transmission, in a shallow valley that offered some protection from orbital observation. I led the expedition team myself, not out of bravery but because I refused to order anyone else to take a risk I wouldn't. "Weapons check," I ordered, though I knew that if humans appeared, our sidearms would be about as useful as harsh language. "Life support systems show the atmosphere in the outpost is stable," reported Medical Officer Jax, studying her scanner as we approached the small, dome-shaped structure half buried in the lunar surface. "One life sign, very weak." "You came," he whispered, his translator crackling with interference. "I didn't think anyone would dare." High Chancellor Voss barely resembled the dignified statesman I had seen in Galactic Council broadcasts. His once lustrous scales were dull and flaking. 3 of his 4 eyes were clouded over, and the 4th tracked our movement with the jerky motions of someone fighting to remain conscious. The airlock cycled with a hiss, admitting us to a cramped, dimly lit chamber that smelled of ozone and something else. Fear, perhaps. The center of the room, slumped in a makeshift command chair cobbled together from parts of different systems, was a Centaurian. "High Chancellor," I said, approaching slowly. "I am Commander Varax Turalian of the 7th Orion Fleet. We received your transmission." Medical Officer Jax moved forward, scanner in hand. "Chancellor, you are suffering from radiation poisoning and multiple internal injuries. With your permission, I'd like to administer emergency treatment." Walsh made a sound that might have been a laugh in a healthier Centaurian. "The Orion Fleet. How appropriate. Your ancestors were among the first to learn what I learned too late." Jax looked at me questioningly. I nodded, and she stepped back, respecting the Chancellor's wishes. The Chancellor waved a weakened hand dismissively. "Save your medicines, Doctor. My condition is terminal, and we all know it, but before I die I must pass on what I have learned. The truth about humanity." "Tell us what happened," I said, kneeling beside his chair. "Your message mentioned a border violation?" "A mistake," Voss replied. His breathing labored. "A simple, stupid mistake. Our navigation charts were outdated. The humans had expanded their claimed territory 50 light-years beyond what our records indicated. Not through conquest, but through systematic exploration and settlement of uninhabited systems. But surely such expansion would have been registered with the Galactic Council," I said. The Chancellor's laugh turned into a painful cough. "The humans left the Council 80 years ago, Commander. They said it was inefficient, corrupt. They submitted their territorial claims directly to each species' ambassadors. Our previous administration received the notifications, but..." He trailed off ashamed. "But they were ignored," I finished for him. "Bureaucratic oversight. We thought they were bluffing." The humans had become isolationists, focused on developing their own systems rather than expanding their influence in the greater galaxy. When our colony ships arrived in this system, we assumed any protest would be formal, diplomatic. Instead, they responded with overwhelming force. Security Chief Vazik said. I frowned. "Chancellor, they destroyed an entire colony. 5 billion lives." "No," Voss suddenly straightened, his voice finding new strength. "That's what you don't understand, what none of us understood. This wasn't overwhelming force. This was a warning shot. And they have worlds with populations of 30 billion, Voss countered. "Fleets we never see because they don't patrol beyond their borders. Manufacturing capacity that could arm every human in the galaxy. Do you know why they used primitive nuclear weapons instead of their antimatter arsenals? Because they wanted us to recognize the message. They could have vaporized this entire system with a single strike from their more advanced weapons. Instead, they chose to demonstrate that even with technology centuries out of date, they could still destroy us. The Chancellor reached out with a trembling hand, grasping my arm with surprising strength. Commander, when I was a student of history, I read about an ancient human conflict. Two human nations, both possessing nuclear weapons, engaged in what they called a Cold War. For decades, they stood at the brink of mutual annihilation, neither attacking because they knew the response would destroy them both. There they called it mutually assured destruction. Mad, appropriately enough. That's the point, Commander. Neither side won because neither side fought. The humans understand something that the rest of the galaxy has forgotten. Sometimes the greatest power lies in the threat of violence, not in its application. What happened here wasn't a full demonstration of human military might. It was a reminder that they still adhere to an ancient philosophy from their history. Si vis pacem para bellum. What happened? I asked. Which side won? Precisely, Voss nodded weakly. The humans didn't want this conflict. They tried to warn us. Sent diplomatic ships that our automated defenses destroyed. They even accepted our surrender initially. But then their leadership decided that mercy would be seen as weakness, that without a demonstration, other species might make the same mistake we did. If you want peace, prepare for war, I translated, the ancient human phrase sending chills down my spine. The Chancellor's breathing became more labored and Medical Officer Jax moved forward again, scanner beeping urgently. Commander, his vital signs are failing rapidly. What would you have me tell the Galactic Council? I asked. Voss gripped my arm tighter. Listen to me. The humans have a saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. What happened here was their response to being fooled once. You don't want to see what happens if they believe they have been fooled twice. The truth, he whispered. Tell them humanity fell once, long ago, when they withdrew from galactic politics, when they turned inward, and we mistook that fall for weakness. But they were not falling. They were coiling like the predators of their world that draw back before striking, and now the galaxy bleeds for our mistake. With those final words, High Chancellor Voss of the Centaurian colony closed his eyes and departed for whatever afterlife awaited his kind. His grip on my arm loosened. Tell them, respect the borders, respect the silence, and pray that humanity returns to its slumber. I imagine she is, I replied, stepping onto the familiar deck of my vessel. Prepare the fleet for immediate departure from this system, and tell Communications Officer Trella to compile all our sensor data and the Chancellor's testimony for transmission to Central Command. The return journey to our fleet was conducted in silence, each member of the expedition team lost in their own thoughts. As our shuttle docked with the command ship, Lieutenant Pax was waiting at the airlock, his expression grim. Commander, Central Command has been hailing us for the past hour. Admiral Zentara is displeased with our radio silence. Sir? Pax looked confused. Shouldn't we conduct a more thorough investigation? Perhaps send probes to the planet's surface? Oh, what? I stopped, turning to face my lieutenant directly. Pax, have you ever seen a Terran ant colony? They would poke sticks into the colony, just to see what would happen. Just to watch the ants swarm out in defense of their home. I gestured toward the view screen showing the devastated planet below. We just found a very big stick that someone poked into a human colony. I have no intention of poking another. Pax shook his head. It's a small insect from Earth. Tiny creatures, barely visible individually, but collectively they build enormous colonies underground. Some human children used to have a fascination with these creatures. Do you know what they would do? The image on the tablet displayed a simple metallic object, roughly cylindrical, floating at what would be considered the outer boundary of the system. Text was visible on its surface, written in standard galactic script alongside what I recognized as human English. Show me. As we made our way to the command bridge, Navigator Kell approached with a data tablet. Commander, long-range sensors have detected something unusual at the edge of the system. It appears to be some kind of marker buoy. Magnify the text, I ordered. Attention, you are entering human territory. All vessels must transmit identification and purpose immediately on standard frequencies. The failure to comply will be considered a hostile act. This is your only warning. The words that appeared sent a chill through my entire body. Below this message in smaller script was a date stamp. The boy had been placed there 6 standard years ago. 6 years, I murmured. The Centaurians had 6 years of warnings before they established their colony here. Sir? Pax questioned.